What is the difference between the scientific method, let me call it, what we all learn in school, the scientific way of learning about the world, and the spiritual method? Now listen very carefully because this is important. You have Vidya and you have Gyaan. As I've mentioned before, Vidya is organized learning. Things about the world. You learn mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, people do business. Okay, fair enough. Gyaan is what is known as realized knowing, which implies it is something experiential. So you have Vidya and you have Gyaan. Now, you could break up Vidya into two parts. Para-vidya and apara-vidya, the Upanishads tell us. Para-vidya is that knowledge that will lead you to Gyaan, to an experience. Whereas apara-vidya is just worldly knowledge and it changes. Not so? You all remember the time when they were spraying people with DDT? And then a few years afterward they realized it caused cancer? So today's scientists will tell you one thing, and next few years it will change. It will change their mind. New evidence. It keeps changing. So you have apara vidya, lower forms of knowledge, para vidya, what you get here, and then it will take you to Gyaan, which you get on your own. Okay? Now, let us contrast these two. Worldly people look at things in the world, scientific knowledge. How does science work? You observe something with your senses. You know we have 5 senses. So you see something, you hear something, you touch something, you can measure something. Okay? You observe the world and then you come up with some sort of hypothesis about it and then you test it out. Okay? That's how the scientific method works. So it is based on observation. When you do experiments in your science lab, you look at things, you measure it, and then you try to make your best guess. And this scientific method is based on the principle of falsifiability, which means that I have something that could work right now. It might be wrong, but it's working. If I figure out in the future it is wrong, then I will change it. And so science goes. This is the philosophy of science that we all learn in school. But the key thing here, it is based on measurability. And think about this. The word Maya means to measure. So what we are actually measuring and looking at through the senses isn't really permanent, real. Now, if today you say something, alright, suppose I say broccoli causes cancer. You do some studies, maybe you find in some people it causes cancer. Then in a few years' time you do another study, you say broccoli doesn't cause cancer. Okay? What is the truth? The point I'm trying to make is this scientific way of thinking, observing, cannot take you to the truth. There's nothing stable about it. It is unreal as the world is. And it is not the truth. So then what's the difference between this scientific method and the spiritual method, what we are trying to teach, to talk about? That is the key question. And the answer? One chaupai from Sri Ram Charitramanas. Prabhu Sri Ram explained to Bhaya Lakshman. Main aru mor torte maya, jehi bas कीन्हे जीवनी काया. Go go char jahan lagi man jai, सो सब माया जाए हूँ भाई, सो सब माया जाने हूँ भाई. बोले श्री राजा रामचंद्र की. मैं अरु मोर, the sense of I and mine, torte maya, you and yours, this is maya, this is illusion. So we spoke about this feeling that you're this limited individual. And it holds sway over all of us. Jehi bas कीन्हे जीव निकाया. Go chara. Jahalagi manajai, the senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, whatever is perceived by the senses and within the reach of your mind, the senses and the mind, oh brother, know this to be maya or illusion, impermanent. It is not real. So therefore, the scientific method by this argument is limited because it is based on observation by the senses, pure and simple. What this means is that for science to work, you and I have to observe the same thing. But in spiritual terms, how could you experience what I experience? It's not possible. And this is the key difference between both of them. So then, what is the spiritual method? And I'd like you to remember this. At the base of all that we do, in spirituality, there are essentially 4 spiritual methods. 4 of them. And they have nothing to do with the senses. They are prayer, meditation, contemplation, and revelation. That's all. Prayer, talking to God, which in essence is talking to yourself, your supreme self. Meditation, silencing the mind and becoming absorbed. It has nothing to do with experiencing something on the outside, not of the mind and senses. Contemplation, it's a method of inquiry, asking, who am I? And remaining silent. Silence. And the 4th one, which isn't really a method because you can't do anything about it, is revelation or grace. And this comes about through self-surrender and letting that supreme take hold of you. The key point I'm trying to make is that all this thing about spirituality that we do is not about getting something, seeing something, measuring something. It is about experiencing something. And if you haven't experienced it, then that's what you're working toward. You are going on trust that I have experienced something, that the Paramachar has experienced something. Or maybe not, who knows? You can't tell. But the idea is you're not to worry about anybody else. You have to experience it. Okay? And I'm going to wrap up this entire argument with a last little story. So keep in mind, Vidya, Gyaan. Don't waste time with the Apara Vidya, all the stuff of the world. You learn engineering today, next 5 years technology change, all that gone to waste. You learn the methods of learning, but the actual content changes. Paravidya, knowledge of how to find yourself, and Gyaan, the actual experience of the self. This story may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter. Once, a devotee went to Buddha, Lord Buddha, you know. So he was sitting under a tree with all of his disciples. A devotee came. For his entire life, he was chanting the name of the Lord, Sri Ram, Sri Krishna. He believed in God 99.9%. But there was a 1% of doubt. His whole life was dedicated to this, but he had this 0.1% of doubt. He said, "Oh Lord Buddha," he was very ashamed, you know, "is there a God?" Now you tell me, are you 100% sure there is a God? He spent his whole life in this, but yet still that little 0.1% doubt was there. Is there a God? The Buddha looked at him and he said, "No, there definitely is not a God." Big uproar. A little while later, another man came, and he was a Charvaka. Now, Hinduism, in nowadays, we have organized religion. But really, Hinduism is just a catch-all phrase given to all of the practices that were there in India. You see, we don't believe in formalizing things into one thing. We give you a choice, right? There's a God for everybody. If you want a God that looks like a man, you get that. If you want a God with many hands, you get that. You want a monkey God, you get that. You want a flying God, a bird God, whatever God you want. You do your thing, I do my thing. But with all this formalization now, it's channeling people into one way. May or may not be useful. But the thing is, even within Sanatan Dharma, there's a group of atheists, people who do not believe in God. They are materialists, only believing in what they could see. So this atheist came and he said, for my whole life I've been arguing using logic. There is no God. But I have 0.1% doubt in my mind whether there is a God. Is there a God? I don't believe there's a God, but there's a little doubt in my mind. Is there a God? Buddha looked at him for a little while and then he said, yes, there is a God. A little while after, another person came, and this person was an agnostic. This person didn't really know what to think. You see, he didn't have beliefs shoved into him. He was open. What is all of this about? He came to the Buddha and asked, Lord Buddha, is there a God? I really do not know. I do not know what to think. Buddha immediately became silent. He closed his eyes. Mimicking him, the man did the same thing. He became silent. He sat, he closed his eyes. And then Buddha began to meditate for a while. And this man also began to meditate for a while, looking deep within. And after some time, something transpired. The man opened his eyes, had tears in his eyes. He bowed before the Buddha. He had no more questions. No questions, no answers. That was it. What does this mean? If you believe there's a God, if you believe there's no God, you're in the same boat, it's the same situation. You know what? You're believing in something that you do not know. Isn't it so? You believe in something that you do not know. So you could believe whatever you want. If this and that, it doesn't matter. The idea is that it has nothing to do with this experience of reality, what I'm trying to say. People say all kind of things. They tell you all kind of things. Believe in this, believe in that, do this, do that. And that's the problem. When you believe in nothing and keep yourself extremely open, then you can have this experience and there are no words that can describe it. So I'm not going to give you an answer. The whole point is for you to find the answer yourself. If you say, I don't know, then what happens? The longing to know would arise. And then you become a seeker. Okay? So the person who believes in God, remember the Buddha was responding to the person, not to the question. For the person who believes in God, I will say no, because you want to drop this idea of God which is limiting. Get the experience. The person who does not believe in God, he has a belief that needs to be broken. So you say, yes, there is a God. Otherwise, he wouldn't start to search for anything. You stop, you stagnate, you believe you're right and you know everything. And the person who remains silent was the right attitude, the inquirer. Keep searching and seeking till you find yourself that experience. Nobody could tell it to you, make you experience it, except grace. Grace of the Guru, grace of the Divine. It is possible. But for the large part, you have to make this effort. Okay? So this person who came, the agnostic, he didn't come for an intellectual answer, just talking things and like to think about it. He came for an experience. See, intellectual answers are very cheap. Anybody will tell you anything. But he needed something experiential, existential. He needed a taste. And what the Buddha did is he gave him a taste. So you have to ask yourself whether you've had that taste. And if you ask yourself, I don't know whether I've had it or not, then you didn't have it. Okay? So, to wrap it up, you know, people in general don't care about God. You care about God? You care about you. The reason you care about God is because you think God could help you. That's all. That's how we all start like this. And so as long as you could get some help for your problems, you latch on to the idea of God. You want to believe because you could get help. But the attitude of the seeker will only come after some suffering hits and you realize that all of this is nonsense, and you start to focus yourself and go within. So shake up what's going on in your head. Don't go into a sort of mental rut. Keep yourself open and seek that experience that we all need, the experience of our true selves.